What's up, guys? Ryan with Athix Fitness here with episode 7 of Vegan Fitness 101 today. We're talking all about cardio, something that I admittedly don't have as much experience with as a lot of people, but I can definitely talk on this and give some advice for people out there interested in cardio, what types of cardio to do, low fatigue cardio, high fatigue cardio, hit and miss lists, all this stuff. So let's get right into it right here. The most important thing to consider with cardio is, first of all, is it necessary for you and your goals? There's a few different things you would be doing cardio for. Health, obviously, is one of them. Sports and fat loss. That's going to be your main three right there. Cardio, I would say, for everybody is a great idea for health purposes. So if you're interested in general heart health, trying to stay healthy, trying to stay active and feel good, you should be doing cardio. And that really should be everybody listening to this video. If you're literally just sitting on a couch all day and just eating food and occasionally lifting weights or something, that's not going to be good enough for your overall health.
Buddy, you all right?
Yes, I'm fine. Why? Don't it look all right?
You look like melted ice cream.
I know a lot of powerlifters and stuff already struggle to get a lot of food in and eat a lot of calories, so their excuse is just to not do more cardio because they don't want to eat more food. And their main goal is mass and lifting more, so they're like, okay, why would I do more cardio? You should do more cardio just to stay healthy and not have a heart attack at like age 40. Obviously, a plant-based diet is going to help a little bit with like heart health in general, but you should also be doing cardio to keep your heart healthy as we age. So that's really just what it boils down to there. Everyone should be doing something, at least some sort of low-intensity cardio. You don't necessarily have to jog or like go bike ride or whatever for health purposes, but it is fun also. And if it's also going to be good for you, then my point of view is why not just do it? All you really need is a couple days a week. So another really important reason to be doing cardio is if you're playing sports and you want to improve your sports performance. A lot of sports obviously include some sort of cardio. Like if you're playing soccer, you're running sprints, you're jogging a lot back and forth up the field. Basketball, kind of the same idea. Tons of these sports do. Tennis obviously sprints back and forth. If you want to get better at the sport that you're playing, you should be doing cardio on top of what you're doing to get better at your sport. So either running sprints to practice that sport-specific movement. If you're playing tennis, if you're playing basketball, things like that. If you're running upstairs, for instance, just to get your heart rate up, jogging to up your overall endurance. That's going to be one other really important reason to be doing more cardio. And then obviously more of my specialty here would be fat loss. So a great reason to incorporate more cardio is for fat loss.
When the virus struck, for obvious reasons, the first ones to go were the fatties.
Although I personally think that cardio is a bit overrated for general fat loss. And that's because I think a lot of people can actually get to their goals through mostly calorie manipulation. A lot of people do tend to think though that just doing more cardio, and not worrying about calories as much is all that matters. And I think this is actually pretty short-sighted of the final goal here. Tracking your calories, first of all, if you can get by with less cardio, that's gonna be a great idea because cardio overall is going to be more fatiguing. So I do think for the vast majority of people out there, they can reach their fat loss goals through primarily calorie manipulation, reducing the amount of calories they eat to lose weight rather than doing more activity to burn more calories. I do think that for most people, they should be doing both, at least also for heart health in general, but they could probably limit their cardio to an extent and focus more on lifting, which I think should be the priority for general body composition. But if someone's main goal is just all-out fat loss, then yes, cardio is great to incorporate in addition to calorie tracking, calorie manipulation, reducing calories, but they do complement each other well. So there's different types of cardio, and I like to split them up into low fatigue and high fatigue. Some great low fatigue options are things like walking, obviously, incline walking. A lot of these list options down here, which is low intensity steady state. Obviously these burn calories, but they're not going to be very exhausting to do. Like you can get out and go for an hour walk without it affecting your workout 3 hours later or something. Some more high fatigue options would be things like high intensity interval training or things like running sprints or GPP work, which is like general physical preparedness, or sled pushes, yoke walk, things like that that involve heavy loading of your spine. These are very fatiguing because they're just very difficult to do. It requires all-out effort, and doing that several times per week can really raise your fatigue levels up a lot, which can affect your training. Another thing about high fatigue training is that a lot of these are more likely to raise your risk of injury. So things like running sprints and such, putting all out effort into something. For me, for example, I actually pulled a hamstring running sprints before when I was cutting. I was doing high intensity interval training, and I was already very lean and probably not drinking enough water also, to be honest. And I pulled a hamstring running sprints. There is a higher risk of all out effort for high intensity interval training, of just hurting yourself, of just more impact on your joints in general too. Even a lot of things like jogging, which is like more of a medium intensity steady state cardio, these are very hard on your joints also, and there is a higher risk of injury with things like this. A lot of people talk about injuries to their knees or just chronic stress in their ankles, things like that, just from jogging a lot on hard surfaces. There is a lot of impact for things like this, and you have to be smart about your cardio choices overall to avoid that risk of injury. I would say for most people, if they can get by with it for goals of like fat loss, things like that, increase low intensity steady state cardio. There's a lower risk of injury, obviously, and lower rate of fatigue accrual. So I would say maximize use of list cardio overall for something like that, and then incorporate a little bit of medium intensity steady state here and there, or HIIT training here and there also, but don't necessarily go 100% capacity if you're not trying to do it for sport related goals. I would say keep HIIT training at around like 90% of your maximum capability. That's probably going to minimize your risk of injury there, but still getting the main goals you're trying to get there for. Low intensity steady state and medium intensity steady state, I kind of classify together because a lot of these exercises kind of you can manipulate to make them either a little more low intensity or a little more higher intensity. These are going to be exercises like for list cardio, walking, incline walking, kind of slow bike riding, things you could probably do for about like an hour or so or longer without many breaks. They're burning calories, but it doesn't take much effort to do. Medium intensity steady state are going to be things like jogging, bike riding, things that you could probably only sustain for a more limited amount of time. You can't do it for hours, but it's still sustainable for a long period of time. Your heart rate is going up a little higher than low intensity steady state. It's just like the next step up from low intensity steady state. So high intensity interval training is more like intervals of about 15 to 45 seconds of max effort, about 90% of your max heart rate is a good way to measure it. And these are gonna be things like running sprints on a bike, maybe burpees, sled pushes, sled drags, yoke walks for more of like a GPP style, things like that. These are gonna be a lot higher fatigue, a lot higher risk of injury, like I said. They're great movements, great for just getting your heart rate up, things like that. And there is more of like an afterburn effect afterwards, as it's called, which basically raises your metabolism shortly after doing it. HIIT training, kind of like the whole appeal to it is that you can get it done in like 15 minutes or so, and then you have this afterburn effect, which basically you burn more calories afterwards from your body trying to make up for the energy expended during that workout before. So you have about like 3-4 hours afterwards, I think it is, where your metabolism is higher and basically you burn more calories. So you burn more calories with a less amount of work, but obviously you have to put in much more effort. And because of the other drawbacks, it's something to be considered there. Low intensity and medium intensity cardio, you're more burning those calories as you do it. So it's more aerobic as opposed to anaerobic for the HIIT activity. So you're kind of just burning those calories as you go there. Then as for when/how to incorporate each of these, I would say try to separate it from your training. So if we're talking about your main goal being weight training here, I would recommend separating your cardio by at least a few hours if you're doing it in the same day. Ideally though, I would do it on a separate day. If you can't do it on a separate day, try to separate it by about a few hours where you can get a meal in between, kind of recover a little bit mentally and physically, and be ready for your weight training for later on. This will help you maximize your body composition, build more muscle over time just because you have more energy, but also be able to put a good amount of energy into each of those things. If you literally can't separate your workouts at all, put your main effort into your weight training, then afterwards do your cardio. So if your main goal is fat loss or heart health, if your main goal is sports performance, then you have to kind of reevaluate that, obviously. This way you're still hitting your goals of doing your cardio after your workout, but you're still putting all of your effort into your weight training, which is where it should be. It doesn't take as much effort to kind of get on a treadmill or whatever and jog for 30 minutes just to get your heart rate up, burn a little extra calories. Your main effort should always be with your weight training for body composition. In terms of HIIT training, I never recommend doing that around your workout just because it's going to take too much effort. Either you're going to burn yourself out with your weight training beforehand if you want to do it after, or if you choose to do it before your workout, it's probably going to really exhaust you if you're doing true HIIT training. If you just kind of want to get warmed up and get ready for your workout and maybe do like a lighter version of HIIT training, which by definition isn't actually HIIT training, but that's fine. The only reason that I can really find for doing fasted cardio that actually holds up is if you're doing, let's say, fasted walking, for instance, and you're doing first thing in the morning, and you're also stacking it with yohimbine, for instance. Yohimbine is a supplement that works best while you're fasted. You should always do fasted cardio if you're doing it with a low intensity, at the most a medium intensity. To be honest, fasted cardio is very much overrated. If you're not using yohimbine, there's really just no reason to do it unless it's very convenient for you. If fasted cardio just works out in your schedule better, like you don't want to eat before you do cardio in the morning or something, then go ahead and do it, but there's really no inherent benefit besides, like I said, about if you're using yohimbine also. And for anyone who doesn't know, yohimbine is just a supplement that kind of helps to burn a little extra stubborn fat. There's like a very little amount of research showing that it actually works well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless you're trying to get like bodybuilder lean or below, 10% body fat or something. There's like a decent list of side effects like anxiety and such. So it's just not necessary for your average person. So for cardio progression for fat loss, for instance, I kind of like to periodize it a little bit. So I would say add about 5 minutes or so of cardio per week. Let's say you're doing 30 minutes of low intensity steady state cardio or medium intensity. Raise that about 5 minutes per session, or if you're not going by minutes, try to go by distance covered. So try to add a little more distance over time that you're traveling, a little more step counts in your day, something like that. So kind of treat it the same way that you would for progressive overload for weights. Try to do a little more over time. And then once you hit a deload for your weight training, also deload your cardio, but start back up a little higher than you did before, if that makes sense. So if you're kind of going in 4-week cycles and you started with 30 minutes of low intensity steady state incline walking, let's say, then you added to 35, 40, and then you ended with 45 minutes, reset that next training block with 35 minutes of cardio. Then keep progressing that way. Some examples of different types of cardio down here. So low intensity steady state is going to be about 100 to 130 beats per minute for your heart rate. These are going to be things like walking, swimming. Swimming's probably not the best example. It's kind of more of a medium intensity steady state. Incline walking, elliptical, kind of at a slow pace, Stairmaster, things that you can do for a long time without taking breaks. These are going to be low intensity steady state, low fatigue, but will still burn calories well. Medium intensity steady state is going to be 130 to 160 beats per minute on average. This is going to be things like jogging, biking, elliptical, jump rope, Stairmaster, rowing, swimming, where you're putting a little more effort into it, and then maybe you can't sustain it for as long as LISS. But it's still a great exercise. I would suggest incorporating these two for more low fatigue options. Keep this more for like your easier cardio day, and then maybe this for 1 or 2 days a week also, just to burn a little more fat, keep your heart rate a little higher too for general heart health. So HIIT is going to be 90% of your max heart rate. It's going to be something that you can really only do for about 15 to 45 seconds at a time, and then you just do intervals of it. So you maybe cycle it with walking in between, like you run a sprint and you go right into a walking and you run a sprint again. That's a good way to do it. A lot of people do it that way. But these are going to be things like sprints, hill sprints, sprinting on a bike sprints, sled pushes or drags, burpees, things like that. And these are going to be sustainable only for, up to 45 seconds or so for your average person. Like I said, it works great for a time efficiency standpoint, but there's drawbacks to being a little more high fatigue over time. So balance this out with other cardio and work up to things over time. Also keep that risk of injury in mind, so try not to go too hard unless you're a trained athlete or you know that it's safe for you. Don't push yourself too much. All right, so that's a very basic overview of all things cardio related in terms of health and fat loss mostly. I'm not an expert on cardio for sports performance or anything, so you might want to watch other videos if that's your main concern there. But in terms of fat loss and health, that's mostly everything you need to know there. It's not very complicated overall in terms of body composition and these things. So take from that what you will, and if you guys have any questions, comment below. I'll get back to them as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next episode, episode 8. So peace out.